So we are going to start this first session. So my name is Hannah Poole, and I'm a journalist and curator of the Talks and Debates here at the Southbank Centre. And I'm so pleased to see you here today. Thank you so much for coming to this session on the politics of Afro hair. We did a version of this session last year, and it was in one of the rooms upstairs, and it was great, and it has gone on to become one of the most watched YouTube videos ever for the Southbank Centre. At the last count, it was close to 50,000 views, which is amazing, and which I think also speaks to how much of an issue black hair can sometimes be. By issue, I don't necessarily mean that it's a problem. In fact, I don't mean it's a problem, but I mean how much we can talk about it. I actually think I could do a whole festival on black hair alone and still have stuff to say at the end of it. So I think I'm joined by some fabulous speakers who probably think similarly. So I'm just going to introduce them to you. On my far right, we have Crystal Afro. Crystal is a natural hair sister and blogger under the name of KinKdom. Immediately to my right, we have Natalie Clue, also blogger and at BeautyPulseLondon. Natalie was also on the panel last year, so I'm looking forward to hearing her thoughts about what's happened in the year in between. Immediately on my left, we have Dike. Angel is another one of the really successful bloggers who has a website called The Natural Lounge. And then at the end, we have Sandie Okoro. Sandie, I think, is probably one of the most, if not the most powerful black women in the country. Sandie is general counsel at HSBC Asset Management. Is that correct? Phew. So we're really, really thrilled for her to be able to join us today. So I'm going to start this panel. Usually with these panels, you start by asking people to say a few words about their thoughts on the subject. I'm going to go into this by asking people to say a few words about their hair and their hair journeys. Because people are often shy at the beginning, I'm going to kick it off. And I did say in the brochure that I'd confess to my Jheri curl sins, so I'm going to have to. So I've had a long and beautiful journey with my hair. I didn't like my hair at the beginning. I've written previously about being a young girl and putting a towel on my head and wishing it was long blonde hair. And I'm so surprised by how many black women come up and tell me they did the same thing when they were younger. My dad never let me relax my hair straight. He said, you can when you're 16. When I was 16, I texturized it. Texturizing is one of those things that we think isn't relaxing, but it is. So I texturized it. I was obsessed with having a fringe. I was obsessed with being able to swish it back and forth. So I did all these things to my hair to try and get it look like my white school friends. And then when I went to university, I shaved it all off. So I had a style not dissimilar to Sandie's, actually, for over 5 years. And then gradually grew it out. Since then, I've blow-dried it straight for a couple of years. I've had braids, I've had twists, and at the moment, I'm having an afro. That's my hair journey. Okay, Crystal.
Okay, with my hair journey in brief, so I never really kind of paid that much attention to my hair as a kid. I didn't even know what to do with it. The first time I actually washed my hair myself, I was 18 years old. Prior to that, it'd always been an aunt or down at hairdressers or something like that. I'd never really touched my hair, so I had no idea really how to handle it. And then at a certain stage, I think early 20s, I started wearing weaves. A friend of mine was like, oh, why don't you try wearing weaves and stuff? So I was wearing weaves and then relaxing my hair to sort of cover the tracks of the weave and stuff like that. And then I kind of got my hair cut short and then I put a weave back into it to kind of grow it out. And at that stage, I was doing my degree and I kind of came up across little different bits of research that were kind of triggering my thinking about how I thought about my hair and how I thought about black women and their image in general. And a friend of mine came into where I was working at the time and she had shaved off her locks. She'd had locks before and she shaved them off. And I was so amazed. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you actually shaved your locks off. Why would you do that? Why? Look, what made you decide to do that? It looks amazing, but why? That's such a big step. And she was saying she wanted to get to know her hair again, and how would she get to know what her hair like unless she sort of got to know it? And I'd never thought about understanding and getting to know my hair. I kind of guess I'd always thought of it as being a bit of a problem. And then she said to me, she'll send me a couple of videos, she sent me a few YouTube videos, and that was the first time I'd seen black women's hair growing really, really well and healthily, just their own natural hair. And at that point I was like, what? That's possible? Like, black women's hair can grow? Like, I was just literally so ignorant about my hair prior to that. And from that point, I was like, I want to try and do this then. I want to try and just do me. I want to do my hair and see if how I get along with it and how it develops. And I decided to start sharing and blogging about it. Now, 3 years down the line, I love it. I love my hair. Even yesterday, I was just playing around, just taking stupid pictures. If you see on my Instagram, I've got stupid pictures of me just playing around with my hair out just because I love it. So, and it's been a really, 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 really brilliant journey for me, kind of getting to the point of just accepting myself and celebrating who I am and feeling good about that. So that's my journey.
Great. Thank you very much. Natalie?
Well, I am the typical chameleon, so what I love about being a black woman is being able to switch it up, being able to be creative. Some of my earliest and most fondest memories are of getting ready to go to church on a Sunday morning with my dress, with the bow and the frills, and my hair in lots of bubbles and lots of clips, rainbows, after having lots of Dax pudding there as well. So that kicked off. So hair, I've always felt that the hair has been part and parcel of an overall identity, dress, shoes, and hair. And growing up, I pretty much carried on in that vein. I did the Jheri curl at about 13, 14, so entered the chemical realm via that route. And I remember distinctly being around 16 years old, and Toni Braxton had just hit the scene. She looked amazing with her short pixie crop. I thought, I want that. And I literally went to the hairdresser, didn't tell my mum, and came back with all my hair cut off. She was like, oh, wow, what have you done? But I just enjoyed the process of switching my hair up as the weaves became a possibility. I wear weaves, I wear twists as I am today. I've had relaxed hair. My hair is currently natural under my twist now, and I just think it's just an amazing celebration of everything that we are as black women, to be able to share our creativity in the way that we wear our hair.
That's great. Thank you very much. Angel?
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. So my hair journey as a, speak up a bit, as a child, I just had 2 bunches with ribbons as well, and I remember that. And my mum was natural as a child, so I didn't feel in a hurry to relax or weave my hair until I got to sort of the teenager time of my life, and then I decided that I would start relaxing my hair from then. So I relaxed it from maybe 13 up to mid-20s. And in between that time, I had braids and I had weaves and stuff like that, but I always relaxed my hair. And then I got to a certain age, and I saw a coin-sized ball patch at the top of my head, and the ignorant part of me didn't realize that the relaxer was damaging for me. So I continued to relax my hair, and the patch got bigger and bigger. And then I thought, right, I can't do this anymore. I've got to change my ways. And that's when I decided to go natural. And I first went natural by basically going on YouTube, watching all these wonderful women in America. They were having meetups. They were celebrating their hair. And like Crystal said, I was amazed. I was like, wow. Our hair can grow, our hair can be so versatile, our hair can do a million styles, and I just felt so excited, I couldn't wait. So I didn't do the big chop, which I regret, I really do regret not doing it, but I decided to braid my hair until it was long enough to wear out, so I transitioned. And then I work in the city, I work for an insurance firm, and I was really quite nervous about my first day natural, but when I got there, I got so many compliments, even on the street. I think, sometimes when you feel good about yourself, you project it. So, walking around, feeling great. And, like Crystal said, I absolutely love my hair. It brings out my creativity. This style today wasn't what I had planned. The one I planned wasn't working. I just put it in something else, and there we have it. And I love to see all different hairstyles. And so, yeah. That's my hair story.
Thank you very much. Sandie?
Hello, everyone. This hair for me now is actually quite long. Seriously, I have it a lot shorter than this. For the majority of my life, I've had really short hair like this. There have probably been 2 key periods when it's been different. When I was growing up, probably up to the age of about 10, when my mother used to relax my hair, and all I can remember, even when I say it now, this stinging sensation of her putting the relaxer on my hair and saying, just sit there, and thinking, this is hurting. So I never really liked it. And then I went to Trinidad when I was about 12 years old, which is where my mum came from. And one of my aunts had short hair like this, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. And I got her to take me to the barber's, and I had all my hair cut off. And my mother literally fainted when she saw me when I walked in. And she's not usually the kind of person that's lost for words, but she was then. But the other thing that happened with that was I was introduced to the world of male barbers, which is really quite something. And it's a different world altogether. And that's where I generally get my hair cut, is in a male barber's. And I'm usually the only woman that walks in, and everybody walks in looking at me very strangely. And I've got a young son, and I now take him to the barber's. And they automatically assume I'm just there to take him, not that I might want my hair cut as well. Another period in my life when I decided I'm going to have a weave. And at the time, I was working for Schroders, a very blue-blooded organisation in the city. And I went out on Monday night with hair like this, and I walked in on Tuesday morning with hair like that. And I thought, what's that going to feel like? Everyone's going to say something. And actually, they didn't. People don't really care that much. They talk about it for 5 minutes, and then they just got on with it. I don't think there was one single person who went home that evening and said, "You'll never guess what, Sandie walked in today with long hair." It didn't really matter, and after a few days, people had forgotten. And I kept it in a weave for about 2 years, and it was taking too much of my life. It was 5 hours every 4 weeks. I could have learnt a foreign language in the time it was taking me to do my hair. So I decided to go back to having it short again. But by this time, I changed jobs, and I was working for Bearings, another very blue-blooded organisation in the city. And they'd never seen me with short hair. So I thought it's going to be the same thing. I'll walk out one evening with long hair, and I'll walk back the next day with really short hair. It's exactly what happened. But the reaction was actually quite different, because everyone was going, "Oh, my God, you look so scary. You look so scary." And I said, I was always scary. So that's my hair journey.
That's funny. When I did the chop, when I went from really long to short overnight, my dad's first response was, "You're never gonna get a beep job." So yeah, parents don't always love what you do. Okay, so I was going to start with some stats, but first, actually, we have the speech-to-text women here, and they showed me a list of words that they used last year when transcribing this session, and I just thought it was kind of weirdly powerful and a bit like a poem, so I'm going to read it out. So the key words that they used last year: texturize, weaving, uninitiated, skinhead, Afro, blow dry, Brazilian keratin, Senegalese twists, relaxed hair, relaxed, relaxer, weave, Jheri curl, perm, hairline, hair gel, extensions, braids, fabric conditioner, semi-afro, Jamaican, chemical relaxers, polarized, prejudices. To me, that's like a poem. Now, there are some phrases in there that I think we've got to be aware that not everybody knows everything here. So, Angel, I'm going to ask you for to explain a few key phrases. What's a weave? What's a relaxer?
Okay. A diplomatical way. Okay, relaxer. Let's start with the relaxer. The relaxer basically is a chemical way of straightening your hair. So you would, it's formed of a chemical called sodium hydroxide. So you would part your hair into lots of little sections, put this stuff on, sit and wait. For me, that's the time of real pain, because obviously it burns, but you wait, and then eventually it's washed off and you have beautiful straight hair. Yes.
And a weave.
The weave, you take your natural hair and you braid it, sometimes around and around in a little circle on your head, and then you sew on another type of hair on top of your hair.
And one of the issues with weaves is, and all kinds of extensions really, is is human versus synthetic. Explain the difference.
See, I'm not that much of a weave expert, but okay, I do know that people do prefer the human hair. It has a more realistic look. I think it's more expensive and easier to take care of.
Okay, we will come back to that. Yeah. Don't worry. Okay, so as I said, this session has had a huge amount of response on YouTube, and I'm just going to give you some statistics to back this up. So the black hair care industry in the UK is worth an estimated £88 million. Black women spend on average more than 3 times our white counterparts on our hair. we purchase approximately 8% more hair care products, and so on and so on. Sandie, you talked about you could have learned a foreign language when you were sporting your weave, and I certainly have found I've never worn a weave. Natalie, you had a weave last year, and I'm conscious that you don't have a weave right now.
No,
is that because you were so moved by last year's session that you've radically changed your views?
No, it's because in between that time I've worn wigs, big Afro curly wigs, and then I just decided at the beginning of this year I want box braids, and literally that's how I am with my hair. I love having that choice of wearing it in different styles. I have to say, last year I would never have touched a wig, and it was actually at one of the your meetups, that I thought, I want curls too. So I was going to one of the natural hair meetups, and I didn't want to be left out. So I went and bought a curly Afro wig, and that's how fantastic Afro hair is.
But for me, I know that you have curly Afro hair. So for me, the idea that a woman with incredible great curly Afro hair then goes out and buys an Afro wig. So I don't know how many of you saw Naomi Campbell, for example, on Graham Norton. So then goes out and buys a wig and puts it on top of her already curly Afro hair. Do you not see, is there any contradiction for you in that?
Not really. I just see it as an accessory for me. So my hair is an accessory. It's a way to express myself. It's a way to show how I'm feeling at that time. And if I wanted to wear my natural curly hair, I could do that as well. It was about being convenient, instant, and having that option to change.
How do you feel when somebody with natural hair accuses you then of wanting to be something you're not for wearing a weave?
What I would say is that the only negative I've seen with the rise of the natural movement, I think it's been fantastic. Some people don't even like the word movement. So the rise of women deciding to wear their hair in a natural way is the condemnation and the judgmental attitude that is sometimes put forward to other women. And I really feel it's about choice. It's the same way of deciding that I want to buy some shoes from Primark for £6 or shoes for £400 from Jimmy Choo. And I feel it's about that personal choice. And as a woman, I have decided that this is how I want to wear my hair, and I feel that I should have the choice to do that.
Crystal, you are part of this movement. Do you feel that the natural movement can sometimes be, people make the transition, they often are quite kind of almost religious about how excited they want everyone to have natural hair. Is there a smugness that can come from people with natural hair towards those with straight or weaves?
Okay, so I was asked a similar question to this before, and I kind of answered that sometimes women with natural hair get stereotyped as having a really bad attitude towards anyone who doesn't have natural hair, like really, really condemning. And sometimes I think that's almost as much of a stereotype as women with weaves or relaxed hair being told, oh, they want to be something they're not. It's not always the case. So it's as simple as that. People are different. But then I said that, but then equally my mother came to me and she was like, no, a lot of women who've got natural hair are really, really condemning. So in my opinion, I think people have to be cautious of taking it as a stereotype, but I am aware that there are people who can come down like really hard on other people. But for me personally, I totally agree that it's about choice. It really is about choice. But and I just don't think that it benefits anyone to start really sort of condemning. You don't win people over like that. People don't see each other's different ways of thinking. You can't hear another person if all they're doing is shouting at you and condemning you. That doesn't help anyone to understand what your point is at all. So.
Sandie, you are incredibly powerful. What advice would you give? And you could argue that it's one thing for a woman who is already powerful and at a certain stage of her career to choose her hairstyle, to not feel the pressure to look a certain way. But what advice would you give to a young black woman coming to your company or coming to another industry, another company, but a similar industry, very corporate? If she came to you with hair like mine for the interview, what would you say?
I'd say hello, sit down.
Would you give me the job, Sandie?
It depends. I think the most important thing is being yourself. And that includes being comfortable with your hairstyle and your hair and everything else. And if you try and be something that you're not, to fit in with whatever stereotype that is or whatever your friends are saying, it will come across, and I won't give you the job, but that's because I probably will have another feeling about you that's got nothing to do with your hair. If you are comfortable and you turned up and you were comfortable with yourself, I wouldn't even notice your hair. It's not really an issue. And I think the important thing is, because you've got to be yourself throughout your career, and if you start being something at the beginning and halfway through you want to go back to being yourself, that's really difficult. So just be comfortable. It's all about choice. So long as you are actually good enough to do the job, you've done your preparation, and your hair is neat and well presented, as opposed to you just rolled out of bed and haven't done anything with it, then, it doesn't matter, what kind of hair you've got. Just, be yourself and be comfortable with it.
And that's obviously your view. But do you think if I was coming up in front of a 50, 60-something white man in banking, he would have the same view?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not a 50, 60-year-old white male banker, so that's really difficult to imagine myself in those shoes. But I think that I do genuinely think that probably this is overworked a little bit, and it's not as much, my gut feeling, an issue as it's made out to be. That actually, if you walked in with the right set of qualifications, you presented in a really good way in an interview, the state of your hair would mean you wouldn't get the job. I really, in my gut feeling, don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I really don't. And I don't actually subscribe to the view that if you have natural hair, you can't get a corporate job, a job in the city or anything, because that's absolute rubbish. And I see it every day with people, all different types of hairstyles, very much represented like people here in the audience, doing lots of work in the corporate field, either I'm a lawyer myself, or either in the law or in financial services. So that is just a myth that just ain't true.
Angel, why do you think black women's hair is discussed so much more than white women's hair?
I think because it's just so versatile, you can just do so many things. Like Natalie said, she can wake up tomorrow and decide to have curly hair, straight hair, long hair, short hair, any different colour you like. And it's accepted, I think, that we can change so much with our hair. So, and we like talking. Can I just go back to your point about the people feeling excluded for having weaves and not having weaves? Because I was sitting there and I was like, oh, I hope she asked me. But anyway, for me, I think that why people without natural hair may feel excluded, I don't feel that I've never come across anybody in my circles or anyone that I've known that deliberately discriminated against someone for not having natural hair. But what happens when you do have natural hair, it's a new thing. And for some people, they don't know how to take care of it and they don't know what to do. So they meet up with other people who like the same thing. So they have meetups and events where they're going to talk about natural hair. So it's not like the weave people aren't invited or they're excluded. It's just like cyclists and maybe skateboarders. Skateboarders are going to meet up. And when they meet up, they're talking about skateboarding. They're not going to talk about cycling because they're not interested in cycling. Yeah. They're going to talk about skateboarding. So, yes, it's open to everyone, but
can I just make a point on that? It is open to everyone, but there has been those incidences when you do walk in with a weave, it's like, really? So why are you here? And they're kind of looking at each other. So it's that kind of feeling that can happen. So
do you think it's a feeling, though? Because I know many naturals that wear weaves to protect their natural hair in the winter and whatever. So do you think it's a feeling? Like, I don't know.
So are you saying you think that people project, that the women with weaves are projecting something that they're... And then...
Yeah, well, I don't know. If I sneaked into the skateboard meet-up and I was a cyclist, I might feel like, oh, they might know.
Just to say as well at this point, I think Crystal and Angel are hosting a meet-up later on, immediately after this session, upstairs on that side, the green side, level 4. So there is a meet-up. It's open to all hair types, skateboarders and cyclists included. Sorry, Angel.
Yeah, no, so I was just thinking about what you're saying in terms of feeling like people are looking at you like, what are you doing here if you've got relaxed hair? But I think there's a certain level that I recognised as, like, when I went natural, that a lot of it was my own self-consciousness. So in terms of when I went natural, I was a bit like, oh, how are people going to receive me? And I was like, is that person giving me a funny look because of my hair? And actually they weren't. A lot of it came from me thinking that that's what they were doing. And I think sometimes maybe there's people who, I'm not saying for definite, but I think sometimes weave wearers and stuff might think that people are kind of giving them a cold look, but really it's not that. Maybe it's just their own internalization of the situation.
And I've had meetups, and people have come with relaxed hair, and they've come with natural hair, and they've come with everything, but they came to find out more. Sometimes, I hope there's no one in the audience that would ever look down on anybody that, you know, has different hair to them. But they're actually there because they're interested. They want to find out, okay, what are you doing? How do you take care of it? What do you do? So just because that's what they're wearing at the time, it doesn't mean that they might be so versatile. They might fancy having natural hair next month and then relaxer the month after. So I don't know.
I'm just going to ask the panel just for like a one-liner that you'd like people to take away from this session.
It's about choice. It's about you and being the best that you can be and comfortable in your own skin. So that's all really.
Great, thank you. Natalie?
Celebrate who you are as a black woman and embrace the creativity of your hair and your overall image.
Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah, be happy with who you are, basically. Get to know you and enjoy you and love you for who you are. Don't be ashamed of it because you define your standard of beauty. So you do that.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to the great panel. That's fabulous.